Yeah, so first of all, just like the basic questions. Walk me through the origins of the band. Like, how did you guys sort of get together, and how long you've been sort of playing and stuff like that?
So Bloom started in 2016, but really became Bloom in 2017. But it was really myself and our guitarist Jared. I was studying audio engineering at university, and it was a bit of a joke of a degree, but the best part about it was that we had access to rehearsal rooms and studio rooms.
Nice,
And it really started from best friends in high school, wanting all having the shared interest of music and the same genres we listened to. And so we kind of one by one got recruited into this music thing, and we played covers and just kind of played music together. Ollie joined the band in 2017, and it was at the end of 2017 we released our first single. We didn't play a show until the start of 2018, but every week we would all get together and practice and rehearse for no real reason outside of the fact that we were all friends. And it was really a great dynamic to start a band with, because we always recognized that we were friends before we were bandmates.
Ideal.
And that sort of carried throughout the entire career of Bloom. Is with everything, it's we're all friends at the end of the day. We walk away from Bloom and we still have a friendship with each other, and that's super important to what we do.
Especially on the road, right?
For sure, yeah. There's outside of music, we have so much in common and so many shared interests, and it's great to not have to always be talking about music and gear and records and like all this sort of stuff. But yeah, so Origins is 2017, I'd say, is when Bloom, we all banded together and we all joined up and linked forces. And then 2018 we started playing shows, and it's just been
right before the big suck, right?
Yeah.
How did that, like, no one likes to talk about it anymore, but how did that affect you? Like, if you guys were just kicking off then, your trajectory's been pretty momentously like that angle, right? So like how did you guys get through that? Like
we definitely it definitely kind of stopped us in our tracks a little bit. Like, we had like some momentum going. We had like just released a single. We released Cold in
2019.
May 2019, and that kind of got the ball rolling for us in terms of like not being just like a local band that opens shows. And so we started getting like better opportunities, and then that just kind of ground to a halt. But we had just at the end of 2019 we recorded our EP in Passing. So we at least had that like banked and ready to go. COVID definitely delayed it. It was supposed to come out earlier than it did, but we, ummed and ahed about if we should release things like through COVID, because like it was like, should we wait it out? Like, how long is this going to last? And like some bands chose to wait it out, and I think that definitely shows for some bands that just kind of like disappeared. So I think we made the right call in that.
We just kind of went screw it. Like, we were like, we have all this music and it's like all ready. Like, it's all lined up. Like, no one's releasing music. We'll be top of the top of the radar.
Strike while the iron's hot, right?
I think we were one of the lucky ones in that sense, because we actually grew quite a bit through COVID because there wasn't anything else that was coming out at the time, and we just signed to Grayscale Records. For us at the time was like this massive bump from being, we have one song that's done really well to here's a whole body of work that we're really proud of. And I think releasing it through COVID, while we didn't get to tour the record, we didn't get to really do all that much around sort of playing live, it meant that people that cared about Bloom or people that just cared about the genre were discovering a brand new release. And I think everyone at that time was itching for something. So I think it sucked that, it halted us in our tracks. We couldn't really, do all the live touring that we wanted to do. We were also able to use that time to release music and develop sort of international fan bases and people that were, I guess, people that were hungry for more music. We definitely didn't have it as bad as everyone else, because like Ollie said, we had this thing to put out, but it was halted a little bit because we didn't get to push it as much as we wanted to. We didn't get to do as much as we wanted to with it. So
that seems like a fairly common story, is the people who grabbed it by the throat and took advantage of the radio silence are doing well now, Where do you guys draw inspiration from musically? That's something I like to get to as well, because like a lot of times influences change. Like when you form as a band, maybe you were listening to a specific genre collectively, and then other influences kind of come in and diversify your sound a little bit.
Yeah, we all have we all share like a common ground in terms of music interests, but we all have like really different music interests. So like we all obviously like love like melodic hardcore, and like that's why we started the band. But we all kind of take inspiration from just like different places, I guess. Like Jack listens to stuff that like I don't listen to. I listen to stuff that Johnny doesn't listen to, like stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. I think when the band started, we were really influenced by like Touche Amore and like the really like really raw sounding melodic hardcore. More recent. La Dispute, definitely. I think as we've sort of developed and I guess as this metalcore boom has happened, bands like Counterparts and like Era and even like Bad Omens to that extent, with I guess the songwriting structure of having a really catchy, memorable chorus and these heavy bits that really gets the crowd engaged. I think that's definitely eked into our songwriting. But then I also think back to like bands like Paramore and like the Brand New Eyes record. That's for most of us. That's in our the holy grail of albums.
Yeah.
And so we take influence from a lot of different genres because we have that diverse listening pool. But I think at the end of the day, melodic hardcore is still at our roots, and that's why we started the band and what we're the most influenced by. And melodic hardcore, especially in Australia, was really, really like strong, and there were so many really great bands when we started out, and that spark has sort of fizzled out. So I think
we like just missed it.
Yeah.
I feel like if we started like 5 years earlier, we would have been like in that like the golden.
All's well that ends well, there, right? But like I mean, even like melodic hardcore, metalcore, it's not really exactly the same scene as it once was either. Like there's a lot more a diverse sound now. A lot of the bands that are rising to the top are the ones that are taking chances with expanding their palette sonically and things like that. So I think that's a direction. Taking it out of genre may be the best choice at the moment. I
think it's just about like keeping it interesting and diverse, like across releases and stuff. Like instead of just like rehashing old grounds, like we always want to add something new, or like I don't know, like change the way that like the section is like lyrically, like what we've done before, or like change like if we have a breakdown that's similar, we'll like flip it or something like that. Like just like changing the dynamic of the songwriting and stuff. Yeah,
just keeping it fresh, right? Yeah. So your lyrics are emotionally heavy. What's the process there? Do you write like as poetry first? Or do you go in after the song's done, taking shape and sort of, a lot of people like hum out melodies and then sort of work lyrics around it. Or sometimes you'll have lyrics and then you've got to kind of massage them into the cadence,
Yeah, lyrics and like the instrumentals and the lyrics kind of, they come together like simultaneously, but they don't get like kind of assigned to a song until the instrumental is done.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once the instrumental is done, we'll like get a certain like feel of what the song is and like kind of vibe that we're going for, and then that will dictate what lyrics like it gets. But it's definitely like we write the lyrics to the song. For sure.
I think as well we write a lot with the big picture in mind. Like we always every release we've done has been loosely a concept record. In Passing was written about my grandfather passing away, and for that I sort of came to the table with like, this is what I want to write about, and we all sort of jumped on board to flesh out this idea of like kind of going through the different stages of grief. And then for our upcoming album next year, we really went for more of a looser concept, and with more tracks we were able to explore sort of different feelings and emotions, and we wanted to kind of carry a narrative throughout that release. And like Ollie was saying, it was like we get the instrumentals sounding great, and then we want to work out how we can make the lyrics fit inside of that to tell this story, and so the listener can listen to the album, track 1 through to track 10, and sort of go along with it, instead of sort of having these different ideas being thrown left, right, and center. I think especially with the album that we've got coming up, it is this full body of work, and it's the most amount of tracks we've done on a single release. And I think it's great because we were able to explore way more, I guess, different pockets of that, instrumentally and lyrically. And I think the lyrics are tied to the instrumentals really nicely. And I think for us, we'll always be somewhat of a concept band. We'll just establish what we want the album to be about, and we'll write the instrumentals within that same scope, and then we'll make the lyrics fit inside of that sort of box to tell a story in some way.
It's interesting because like in certain genres you look around and the concept of an album is essentially dead. Like people just release single after single, and it's interesting because I think it's that people's attention span's short, but I think people who find a band and they really want to get involved with that band, they will connect with a cohesive album the way that they used to in like the 70s and 80s and stuff like that.
It's a tricky balance because you always want to have like a really strong single. You want to have something that encapsulates the vibe, so to speak, of the record.
Yeah.
But is that sometimes that can come at the detriment of the full body of work. You don't want to do something that is so markedly different or something that doesn't fit within this full body of work. So you do kind of have to put more attention in with, okay, well, we want to do an album for the people that listen to albums 1 through 10 and they put on the record and they don't skip. And we also want to write something that has got a lot of moments that for the people that are just going to open up Spotify and hit shuffle, that has something for them there as well. And I think especially now it's gotten a little bit more tricky because there is almost 2 different listeners.
It's such a playlist, like a playlist heavy market
right
now. Like it's like
exactly
all about,
it.
Yeah, like the whole like with everything being so algorithmic and streaming, it's like playlist. Like get the song on the playlist.
Yeah.
But I remember when we were doing the album, we were like sequencing all of the tracks. Like it was like it was like very careful of how we placed everything in order to like keep the narrative cohesive and like not like throw something in where it didn't make sense. Like we're really constructing it like an album, you know?
Yeah.
Not to sound like Harry Styles. But
I think for us, we are at our core, we are all album listeners. We are all press play on the first song and listen through it to the end. I don't think us as individuals buy into the fuck it, I'll just hit shuffle sort of mentality. I've always been if I'm going to listen to an album, and an album from an artist that I really care about, I'm always going to listen to the album in full from the second it comes out. I'm going 1 through 10.
Yeah, I've definitely got a top 10 of those albums.
Yeah,
There's not a bad song on them, and you have to listen to the whole thing because it's a series. You
exactly,
know?
and I think you derive more from it listening to it in that way as opposed to
context matters in an album. Yeah, for sure. Okay, maybe Another Life has a great melodic hook. Do you guys focus on making these connective moments between the aggression? Like, how important is a catchy hook in your writing process? Like, is it?
It's grown a lot, and I think it kind of talks to what we were just talking about with like the playlisting, and that you only have this short attention span to grab people in. And I think having a really catchy hook is a sure, fast way to get people to pay more attention to it.
It also feels like kind of like a thesis statement kind of thing. Like it kind of like outlines the whole like concept of the song. Like it's like a point where you can go like, this is what the song's about. Like this is where it is in the album. Like this is like exactly what it is in like a plain kind of way. You know? So it's like if you have a hook, like anything kind of repetitive, it's like this is the song. Like, this is what it's about. Like it makes it really easy to latch onto.
I think when we go into the writing and the recording process, there are songs instrumentally that fit this, like this is going to be a really big chorus and we want people to know these words. We want these to be the memorable parts because it makes for when you're playing it live these really like grandiose moments. And I think like it definitely can be tricky sometimes. Like you never want to shoehorn in an idea. You never want to force something that doesn't naturally fit in there. But the way that people are listening to music and ourselves included, it's like if you have a catchy earworm, if you have something that sticks with the listener after listening to the song, you are almost guaranteed to have that person to come back and listen to it again. And I think our first releases like had next to no clean vocals on them. And as we've evolved as a band, we've kind of found, well, it performs really well. People really connect and engage when we do X, Y, and Z. We really like playing live and having these live moments. So we're going to write into the songs these parts where we can envision us playing them live and people really getting involved. And I think for us, like we always want to do stuff that people want to connect with and engage with. And I think at the core of what we do as a band, it really does come back to how are the people that are listening to this going to feel or react, or what's the end product going to look like with having these sections throughout the songs.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of reads ahead to my next question. It's like, has touring affected the band musically? Are you writing new material? Is when you're writing new material, is live performance more of a consideration than it was when you before you started heavily touring? Like, do you think about that and think, oh, this will like kick ass on stage, or would you change something,
Yeah, there are definitely I feel like there have been moments where we'll write a song and then without thinking about that, and then we'll play it live and like a certain part will do really well, and the next time we go to write, we'll be like, oh, we should do it like that. We should do that again, or like we should do, so I think definitely like live definitely like affects how we write songs.
I think as well, like on a lot of the tours that we're doing, we are kind of the wild card sometimes. And so one of my favorite things about touring, and you get this a lot on regional tours or places where you don't have an established like listener base, is you can watch people throughout the set go from being I'm a complete stranger to this to I now enjoy this, or maybe I fucking hate this.
I should go buy the t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And I think throughout that process of the listener, you can really find the moments that hit home, the things that are really like impactful, and take them from being like I'm just waiting for the headliner to start to I'm actually really enjoying this. And I think those moments are really what trickle into the songwriting, and even things like how we build out a set list is like, well, I remember when we played this show in this shitty pub in this regional town, it took people from being I'm standing here with my arms crossed to like I'm really getting involved in this set. And I think you always want to make something that people care about. Like, I think at the end of the day, you just want you want to make something that other people feel the same way about. And I think that definitely, the live response definitely in one way or another trickles down into what the end product of whatever the next release looks like.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just lastly, what can we expect from a new album? Is it a February release?
Yeah,
coming out?
February 16th.
And it's maybe in Another Life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what can we hope to hear from that?
It's the heaviest.
So I know it's a broad question.
The heaviest stuff we've written, the softest stuff we've written.
Bangers front to back.
Yeah.
No skips.
No skips.
Heat.
Yeah.
It's an album, right?
I think going into it, like within passing the single "Sing to the Soil" we released around that time, we kind of found our groove in a way. We really honed in on like what is the Bloom sound, and then going into the album process, we were like, okay, cool, we found our center. How can we push the extremes of that? How can we go heavier in sections, and how can we have songs that are no screaming, songs that are really soft? Because we found that as we've grown our listener base and our fan base that comes to the shows, some people are really connecting with the heavy stuff, and some people are really connecting with the sing-alongs and the softer and more like emotive definition melodic hardcore sort of sound.
I mean, I'm more of a fan of the light and shade. I prefer to have a diverse range of color.
I think the album we've got coming is it's so meticulously crafted, and there's so many moments of really high highs and really low lows, and in the sense that you can listen to it as a full body of work, and especially towards the middle sort of the album, it really pulls itself back and feels way more distraught and emotive, and it kind of builds into this big climactic ending. And I think for me, like listening to the album, we've had this album written and recorded for quite a long time. We're coming up to nearly 12 months since we started the recording process. And I think with consecutive listens and coming back to it after all of this time, you kind of derive something from it that you only get from listening to it as a full album. And sure, like we've got the singles, we've really tried to make them work as individual elements, but for us, we're really excited to have this full body out and kind of hope in a way that it gets people to listen to albums like albums should be listened to. We want to tour it, and I think for us, like being able to have the opportunity to play it in full and front to back and tell this concept and this narrative is something we all really want to do, because we've spent fucking hours just trying to work out how we can best tell a story, how we can really deliver a concept, not just lyrically, but also instrumentally, and how we can ebb and flow. And we're all super proud of it, and we can't wait to have it sort of out as a full, complete body instead of just sort of dripping out singles.
Outstanding. Well, you heard it here first. Maybe in Another Life comes out in February. Make sure you listen to it from beginning to end. All right, that's the rules. So thanks again for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. Really excited to hear the new material.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome.